Hey, welcome to Mike the Baptist. I'm Mike the Baptist. A little humor.
That works
thing
good.
We do here. Welcome to everybody tuning in. Glad you came. We have a little bit different program today, but it'll be the same. It's different, but it's the same. Which means it's like a teaser they do on TV shows. They do a teaser and tell you something's coming up, and then they expect you to stay. So today is different,
but it's the same.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
sort of. Welcome back to H.D. Jones.
Hey, man, good to be here again.
Good to see you again. Always good to see you. Always anxious to hear what you say because, as you know, we all know you're going to say something.
It'll be something, yes.
Do you have sensors?
We have no censors, and that's the problem.
Yep.
But I do have some technical tricks I can do to eliminate anything that we don't want. And welcome to Wienk. Hello, Wienk.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, yeah, we're kind of excited too. You're a new meat, so
I'm ready for it.
I was talking to Steven Wienk just a second ago, and I was anticipating him coming because I'm not really good with names until I see you 2 or 3 times, and then I've got it. But I only know you as Wienk.
Everybody does. Probably 80% of the people I know don't even know my first name, Steven.
But where that messed me up today was I've been preparing to ask you a funny question about why people call you Wienk. And then I asked you your actual name, and you said Steven Wienk. I'm going like, great. There goes the first little comedy routine. But anyway, we're glad to have you here.
I'm glad to be here.
We're just going to have a nice talk with Steven Wienk and HD and myself, and who knows what will happen. Whatever happens, happens. Steven, as I told you earlier, just a reminder to everybody else, we try not to get too spiritual on Mike the Baptist because that's not what we're about. We're about the message, but if you get too spiritual, I feel like a lot of people that just bores them.
Yeah.
Me being one of them. So if you get too spiritual, I may buzz you.
Okay.
If I get too spiritual, you can tell me to buzz myself, and I'll buzz myself. But anyway, it's there. Don't jump too hard if we use
Here
it.
at Mike the Baptist, we like to get buzzed.
Yes, get buzzed on Mike the Baptist, which is an interesting phrase, which is going to come in to our conversation quite a bit here in a little bit. But first, www.mikethebaptist.com. It's a website. Go look it over. It's got all your stuff on there, different pages you can flip around to. You can buy stuff. Buy something. I promise we'll pay some of the light bill with it.
Do we need filters?
I've
seen my picture on there a few times and thinking I should look better than that.
I'm giving you all the assistance I can. We did increase the resolution on your side of the table a little bit.
That might not be good.
It helped somewhat, but anyway, we're constantly working on that because we're just constantly working on it.
A buddy of mine at the coffee shop yesterday, I just sat down, he goes, "Hey, this thing showed up on Facebook where y'all took Marie to college. You had brown hair back then." I was like, "Shut up."
You never know what shows up on the internet,
on the Facebook,
on the interweb. Speaking of email, comments at mikethebaptist.com. Send us some email. Wienk, help us out with this.
Absolutely.
Tell everybody you see. Send those people some email. They just need email.
They need email.
See, it's that simple.
He's got his own following. He's from a different part of the state.
Well, good. So lean on them. We want email because, 1, we want to know what people think about what they're listening to.
Mm-hmm.
2, we want them to ask personal questions of the people that show up on here so that we can publicly embarrass them.
And you probably have the most amazing, like the best fan ever. My wife. If you heard like a weird like screaming noise last night at about 8:30, that was my wife from Cross Plains when I told her that I was going to be on the show today.
Oh, cool. Cool. Well, I ran into her at church a week or 2 ago, and she was explaining how if something happens on here, she seems to know it. So
she's kind of quiet and shy, isn't she?
She was until that came up, and then it's like I'm a little bit scared now about what she does know, because you will learn a few odd things on here about the people here, self included. But that's okay. It's all in good fun, and I'm glad she listens.
Oh yeah.
And like I said, I'm glad you're here today on the front porch. I think it'd be nice, since we have this guy here that has never been on here before, if we just get nosy with him personally. Back in Arkansas on the front porch, you would just sit on your front porch and you'd just visit until somebody drove by and saw you on the front porch. And people back in those days, they see you on the front porch, they'll stop. Turn around, come back. And then you just talk about whatever comes up. Well, so that's what we're going to do on the front porch today. We're just going to talk about Wienk. And
I'm an open book.
Well, that's good because we're liable to ask you anything. First thing I want to know, like where you're from and how you got here.
So, I was originally born in Minnesota, but my dad works for American Airlines. I'm the baby of 5 kids, and he got transferred a lot. Literally, every single one of my brothers and sisters were all born in a different state. And when I was about 2.5, my dad got transferred to the Nashville International Airport. We moved to Mount Juliet, and
wait a minute. Can you start over? Because I got preoccupied with a technical thing here, and I don't have a clue what you said the last 30 seconds. I mean, it happens. It happens because something happened I wasn't expecting, and just total honesty. Here, I'll even buzz myself. Okay. Tell us, Wienk, where are you from, and how'd you get here?
So, a little backstory. I'm the baby of 5 kids. My dad works for American Airlines, and literally every single one of my brothers and sisters were all born in a different state.
Wow. I
was born in Minnesota, and when I was about 2.5, 3 years old, my dad got transferred to the Nashville airport. And I guess a couple years later, when he was going to get transferred again, I guess my mom loved it so much, she said, "We're not moving anymore." So we stayed in Mount Juliet. So I grew up in Mount Juliet, graduated from Mount Juliet High School, and it's changed a lot. It's not the same. It's not the same Mount Juliet as I grew up with.
I'm sorry, Wienk, but I already have a question.
Okay.
I was listening to you tell that about your each kid was born in a different city. Your dad working for American Airlines, and I'm thinking, I couldn't quite put in my head how they were all born in a different city, and my question was, is it all the same mother?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Yeah.
I think I knew that answer, but it was just like, okay, put that together for me.
We just moved a lot. So we started off in the Air Force. My oldest sister was actually...
That's totally inappropriate to ask that, but it was kind of funny.
It's kind of good, yeah.
She was born in North Korea.
Really?
My other sister was born in Washington. A brother was born in Phoenix, Arizona. Another brother was born in... Where at? I think back in Washington, and then I was born in Minnesota. And then we moved to Tennessee.
Wow. How old were you when you moved to Tennessee? How old were you?
3. So I don't remember absolutely anything at all from Minnesota. So I'd just say I'm a Tennessean. Yeah. I'm from Tennessee. I don't know anything about Minnesota.
Because he's got that purple shirt on, which explains, like he's a Minnesota Vikings fan or something.
I am a Minnesota Vikings fan.
There you go. So you got enough Minnesota in you to do that. So you grew up Mount Juliet, which is very near Nashville White House where we are.
Yeah.
Very near. And, it's great hearing where you were born and how you got here and all, but my extended question is how you got here where you are, because you're involved with some things that have to do with recovery from addiction.
Yeah.
And somehow or another that kind of brought you to our church. You're a part of our church that we go to now. And so next week on the front porch, you're coming back next week.
Yeah.
Okay. Next week on the front porch, I want to talk about those programs that you're involved with.
Absolutely.
Because it's very interesting for one, but they're so beneficial for two. Our church for years, and myself personally have been involved at times with one particular group here locally that deals in recovery. Well, actually 2 groups. So I want to talk about that next week.
Okay. So what are we going to talk about this week?
Well, what I'd like to talk about this week is your personal journey.
Okay.
About how you got from just growing up in Mount Juliet to how you got involved in that kind of stuff and how you wound up at my church.
Absolutely. How much time we got?
Yeah, whatever you need.
So growing up, I always had that, what's the word for it? I was like Play-Doh, to where I kind of had that need to like fit in. And like Play-Doh is, I was able to mold myself.
You mean like Play-Doh, not Plato?
No,
the
not the
smart
philosopher.
Guy. Okay,
Yeah.
Play-Doh.
I caught that early.
Yeah, I was a little concerned.
Don't ever put me and Play-Doh in the same, because it won't go. But yes, Play-Doh.
Play-Doh.
Where
Gotcha.
I can mold myself to kind of fit in to wherever I wanted. And in that time in high school, which it's probably still the same today, is drinking and partying and that side of things. So I started doing that, trying to fit in, and started experimenting with other things. And I started going down a pretty bad path. And so I decided, my oldest brother was a Marine, my dad was in the Air Force. Man, I'm going to go to the military. I joined the Marines straight out of high school, thinking that it would straighten me up, only to find out that in the Marine Corps, they party 10 times harder than I ever dreamt about partying, so it did me no good. And so I spent 2 years in the Marine Corps. I got medically discharged. I got hurt a little bit overseas, and they sent me back. And when they sent me back with a prescription of pain medicine. And when that prescription runs out and the doctor doesn't refill it, you kind of start going down a bad path. I started meeting up with old friends from, partying in high school and stuff, and started selling drugs and started using them, and I kept myself numb. I think at a young age, we don't really know how to control our emotions, and don't know how to use our emotions and how to process our emotions. And always being on drugs and numb at an early age, I never accomplished that. And so the best thing to do is just to stay numb, right? And it just led down a deep and dark path. I've been arrested more times than I would like to acknowledge. I've spent lots of years behind bars. I've got a few felonies, but that led me to finally needing recovery. I was in jail. Now I'll never forget this. And I was calling my mom, and my bail was only $500. And she said, with tears in her eyes, I could hear it over the phone. She said, "Son, you being behind bars, I at least know
You're safe.
that you're safe,
Yep.
and that I can sleep at night. So the only way you're getting out is if you serve whatever time that you are given, or you go to this place of recovery." And I sat on it for about a month. And in all this process, I've lost my kids. I've lost everything. I wasn't homeless per se, as like living in a tent somewhere homeless, but right. I was, hopping hotel to hotel, running from the cops, running from the police, because I was on the run, and they finally caught up and got me. And so finally I called my mom back, and I said, "Mom, I'm ready. Let's do this." And I found God, and kept working at it and kept going, and God kind of put it on my heart that whatever I'm going to do, I'm going to be in ministry, and I'm going to be in recovery. And that's kind of how it led me to Temple Baptist. And that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. No matter where it takes me, I'm going to be helping people in recovery and being in ministry. It's just kind of what I'm called to do.
Takes some of us hitting a brick wall.
Yeah, absolutely.
To understand a few things, seems like. I hear that story quite a bit, but sounds like you ran into your mother.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mom was the brick wall and did some tough love.
Is that where that song came from?
What's
She's
that?
a brick house.
I don't think Brick House by the Commodores is the same concept.
Okay, just wondering.
I do love that song, though. I just go to I do like that. Anyway, so I'm glad you're here, and a lot of you guys I've gotten to know over the years who have came through this similar story, and I've told several of them. Some of the only differences between some of you guys and me is I didn't get caught.
Yeah.
I had days too, but and looking back, I wish I had been caught a few times on some of that stuff and ran into that wall a little bit sooner. How long have you been? When did you run into your wall?
So I've been sober for 5 years now, and that brick wall, like you said, was my mom. She had custody of my kids, and just when you're sitting in jail, you have a lot of time to think.
That's what I've heard. I've heard that.
And so I just spent that time thinking, and as much bad as there is in jail, I will say there are good people in jail. This 65-year-old man told me, if you don't do this now, you're going to be dead in the next year.
Wow.
And just contemplating. So I said, Mom, I'm ready. I'm not using this as a get out of jail free card. I'm not, I'm putting everything I have into this. I'm ready. And from that moment on, I haven't looked back.
It's interesting. I don't know if you've experienced this, HD, but when we first started getting involved with the Hope Center, we call it, which is our local group that we've worked so much with, one of the first things that struck me in being around the guys that were going through that program is that they were just like a cousin of mine or yours that ran into some issues and wound up in a place where they had to have some sort of help to guide themselves out of that. It made me look at that whole situation a lot different than I used to, because I think the hard truth about some of this is people are afraid of guys that have had a past where they've been in and out of jail and drugs and all. A lot of people are just kind of scared of that, especially in the Bible bubble.
Oh yeah,
of folks who have grown up and never experienced anything outside of Sunday school, and that's what's funny to me sometimes, because if you read the Bible is literally nothing but people like us. Right,
you know what I mean?
exactly.
And so it's always funny to me when I get that resistance from people in that bubble. And
isn't it funny though? But but then on the flip side of that, anybody I've seen personally that I know who got involved just a little bit understood real quick that anybody going through that just needs a friend or two, just like anybody needs a friend or two. And if you be a friend to them, you know what I discovered? They'll be a friend back.
And a lot of them are a lot more genuine and honest about their situation. I remember being at a conference one time and the guy was talking about, we all have prejudices, where we want to believe that or not. He said, if I'm walking down a dark alley one night and the guy walking towards me, he's got a long black jacket on and tattoos on his face and gauges in his ear, he said, I'm probably going to find my way to the other side of the street. If a guy's walking toward me and got a 3-piece suit on and a big Bible under his arm, I'm probably going to be smiling and waving. And he said, but you don't know that the guy with the Bible, he may have a gun inside that Bible ready to rob you. And the guy that's with all the tattoos and the big black jacket, he may have just preached a sermon somewhere. And, so we really don't know people's hearts just by looking at the outside of them.
You don't. And a famous guy, what's his name? Famous guy once said, those of you without some sin of your own, throw the first stone. Who was that famous guy?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Sounds like Jesus.
Yeah. So, anyway, yeah.
Inny or Outty. You get a little ahead of ourselves, aren't we?
I did. A little ahead. So, Wienk, I don't see any need to go into a lot more detail. You've kind of told your story about how you got here. And next week, when we come back on the front porch, we'll talk about specifics of programs that you still work with.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what you're doing with them. But I just want to say, on a personal level, man to man, I'm glad you went through and made it through whatever you went through. And I'm glad you're here with us today.
Thank you. I'm glad as well.
I am. We're not going to have any more sympathy for you at all. You are now
baptism by fire.
Yeah. That part's over with. We are now going to ridicule you as much as possible.
Absolutely.
And you're welcome to do it right back. Why don't we take a quick break? We'll come back and talk about some stuff we found in the Bible.
You'll never hear us say at Mike the Baptist that you need our logo t-shirts or hoodies. Just like you wouldn't hear us say that you need Barry White music. But now that Mike the Baptist has logo coffee mugs, we are a little tempted to point out that coffee would only have to taste better out of something that special, or a good hot cocoa, or a rich, smooth cappuccino in one of those brand new 11 or 15 ounce coffee mugs with that warm and inviting Mike the Baptist logo with the fake neon lettering. No, we'll never tell you that you need stuff, but we might remind you that it's not a sin to buy stuff like that and that a little of the money you spend goes toward keeping Mike the Baptist on the air and in your head like a good Barry White album turned up to 7 while you do your taxes or trim those hedges. Find out more about the new logo coffee mugs and our t-shirts and hoodies with funny little sayings and our logo at www.mikethebaptist.com/merchandise.
Hey, we're back. And we really didn't leave. It's just how you do these programs. You take a break and you do something, and then you come back, and I don't know, it just seems like it's more official if you do that.
Yawn, scratch, belch, break.
Go to the refrigerator, whatever. Okay, so Wienk, it often happens at this point that I ask somebody to talk about the Bible, or I'll talk about the Bible, just the book.
Yeah.
What fascinates you about the Bible?
The easy answer is everything, but what fascinates me is just how relatable it is to now times. Like, literally the only difference is we have better technology. Then we still have the same problems, the same sin problems, the same earthly problems that were going on back in the Bible times. Just now we have better technology. We have texting and all this stuff to make stuff a lot easier, but everybody's going through the same things. So it's just fascinating to me to see, Patrick told me one time that we shouldn't be like comparing ourselves to people in the Bible. And in my head, I'm like, then what are we doing? Studying ancient history? Because a lot of the same problems that these guys are going through, I'm going through. So how can I not relate to them? And it helps me a lot.
He's good at this.
I know, right?
I mean, sometimes we catch ourselves off guard going like,
his number one fan is listening to this episode.
Oh, yeah, I got to sound good.
She's just weeping.
Oh, yes.
She's so proud of her little honey bunny.
Well, she should be. I'm proud of him. He's not my honey bunny, just for the record.
Yeah.
So, that's worthy of a buzz right there. Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Speaking of the Bible, H, what you find in there that we can talk about?
This week we've been ties right in so beautifully. I love how God does that, and this week we've been dealing with and reading through the book of James. We've been reading in some different Old Testament, New Testament passages about how God works through difficulties and God works through hard times in our life. And, one of the things you kind of have to ask yourself is, what are some things in my past that I was maybe embarrassed about, or I hid, or I just didn't like about myself, and God's used, and maybe share a little bit about that. I'll tell you, in our church, we have these books that we go through, and the girl that wrote that this week, she did just a phenomenal job sharing very honestly and openly about a physical defect that she had that she was embarrassed about, but how God has used that to cause her to see people in a different way. So how's God used some of those things in our past, I'll start. So
I'll start.
Go ahead.
He's ready.
I was thinking on how to put it, because at first I was going to say, just looking back on my life, one of the biggest blessings that in the time that you would never think would be a blessing is getting arrested. Mm-hmm. But kind of going back to what you're saying about defects, kind of what I was talking about in the beginning is always feeling that need to like be a part of something and be into something. That can be a destructive path if you don't take care of it early enough. If you feel the need to seek attention, if you're seeking attention when you're 15 years old in high school, whether it's good attention or bad attention, that need, you might end up in detention. But as you get older, if you don't take care of that, say now you're 40, you have a wife, you have 2 kids, whatever, that same need for seeking attention might turn around and end up in divorce instead of detention. And so I just think all that stuff from back in the day, I didn't really understand it and really didn't even get to mature and learn how to control my emotions and deal with my emotions. But going through this journey of recovery and becoming a Christian and really divulging into the Bible and reading it and truly seeing, like what I said earlier, that we are the same people as the people in this Bible. It's really opened up my eyes, and it's really changed my life.
By the same way that you went through the last 5 years or so, and then went through the things before that, and the question was, what's happened in our lives that we can kind of use now as a Christian person? Is that kind of what you're asking? Well, similar to what Wienk is saying, I went through some things similar, but in a calmer, calmer way.
You were more covert.
I was a little more covert, yes, sly, or I don't know what you want to call it, but after I came to my senses about some things, and as I started the Christian journey, I could see all over and over again where the things that I went through that were kind of bad were now, I can go to one of those Hope Centers and relate to somebody in a way that somebody who hasn't done any of that ever in their life can't. They just can't.
Absolutely.
And I've talked to many of the guys in those programs enough to know that they can look at you and listen to you and realize you don't know what I've been through. You're talking to me about it, but you don't know. But if you have been through a little bit, they can spot that too.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's so I look at things that happened in my past, and I'm more comfortable talking to people about things I went through, and I can see where that becomes part of your, I have to use the word ministry. But that becomes a part of what I guess you know how to do and you're comfortable doing, and you can speak from experience, I guess. Is that?
Yeah, I think, Paul talks to, I want to think it's the Galatians church, but he says, God didn't choose the wise. He chose the foolish. God chose the broken, so it would be for his glory. And I think when you look at your story, those things that we maybe are even kind of embarrassed about, I'd say for me, I've always just kind of been a goofus. I mean, if it could be funny, being funny is still, it's like my kryptonite. I mean, if somebody tells me a joke that's inappropriate, if it's funny, it's like I still laugh.
Yes.
So as a kid,
Are you saying you're still a human?
Yeah, I
okay.
am.
I thought that's what I was picking up on
as
there.
a kid, I didn't know my audience as well, and so a lot of times my humor got me in trouble. I mean, I'd get in a fight, or because I thought it was funny to make fun of somebody, and but I see now, especially as a pastor, we deal with so many things that are just horrible. I mean, just brokenness and people hurting and stuff, and I will always find something to laugh about, and even try to make the person laugh about it, because I'm like, I can't stand all this negativity stuff. So even those kind of goofy things in your life, God uses those things for His glory, and He'll bring you through. And you maybe don't even understand. It's kind of weird going through COVID. We didn't know if we were going to get to have church. Staff was still kind of showing up, but everybody was staying in their office because we didn't want to infect each other. We didn't know if we were going to get enough money in the offering to be able to pay everybody. We just didn't know. And it was so depressing. And I was like, we got to do something to just communicate to our people. And we've got to be the example of being at least a little lighthearted. And one of the first things we did, we took that old hee-haw song, Gloom, Despair, and Agony, and we went in the sanctuary, and some of the girls dressed up, and we just made a big to-do out of it. And that kind of became contagious, and almost on a weekly basis we were doing some kind of parody, just to laugh, and we'd send it out to our church members. But it was funny, months later, a pastor in our association came up to me and he goes, I know you were doing that just to be funny. He said, but I was so depressed, and I would watch y'all's videos, and I was like, if they can be okay, then I'll be okay. And I was like, it wasn't our intentions. We were just trying to, help ourselves, but it helped other people.
So
you want to hear something crazy?
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
I have no idea what COVID was like.
Because you're in jail?
I was in jail the whole time. No idea. Have no clue what anything was like.
Well, Wienk, I can relate to you. I wasn't in jail, and I didn't pay any attention to
it. No idea. I come out and people are wearing masks. I get to the recovery zone. Everyone's wearing masks. I'm like, what in the world?
What happened?
What is going on
That's
here?
wild. So you came out while it was still going on.
I came out right at like the tail end of it, where things were kind of starting to loosen up.
But everybody in Walmart still had a mask on.
Yeah, everyone in Walmart still had a mask.
I still see people walk around with masks, and I kind of kind of smile.
I do too. I smile, and then I sneak up behind them, and I pull the elastic behind their ear and snap it.
Yeah.
No, I don't really do that. I would if I could get away with that. But so what I'm hearing around the table is that it almost appears that God uses your unique personality after you come to your senses.
Absolutely.
In doing whatever it is he's up to. Interesting. Which, Wienk, by the way, I'll point out, you talked about relating to all those guys and stories in the Bible, and it's still relevant today.
Mm-hmm.
Unique personalities that all had different kind of stories. And interesting. Is that what you were talking about,
Yes,
H?
sir.
You were kind of trying to lead us there, and then we
good.
hijacked you a little
That's
bit.
good. No, that's good.
You have anything else to offer?
I think Wienk has a question for us.
I do?
Yeah.
Welcome to MTB, Wienk. Well, we get to talking, and then we get all excited about what we're talking about, and then we don't really remember where we were going. But it doesn't matter because it all lands in the same place.
Some place, yeah. Now, I think the other thing was, what do you learn in those difficulties? None of us like going through difficulties, but what do you learn? What have you learned about yourself, or what have you learned about God when you go through difficult times?
I've learned that I'm stronger than I really am, or really thought I was. I learned that, and it's not even just addiction. Or to drugs, it's addiction to anything. It's depression. There comes a time where I was so deep in it that I truly thought that I had nothing left. Mm-hmm. Like that I had burned so many bridges. I had done so much. My family's written me off. So I'm just going to have to live this life forever. And then you get introduced to this man named God, and you start learning about him, and you start truly starting to follow him, and slowly things started coming back together. And it wasn't easy. It was tough. There's still tough stuff in my life, but God has absolutely restored my life. So that's the one thing I can tell people if they're going through something now. Just stick with it. You have to get out of your comfort zone. Some people get stuck no matter how.
It's a personal thing, Wienk. At the comfort zone thing, I just have issues with. Carry on. It's just a personal thing.
All right. If you, no matter how miserable you may be, no matter how upset with stuff, no matter how depressed, no matter how into something you are and you think you're just stuck, no matter what happens, you always run back to that because that's where you're comfortable at.
Right.
You have to get out of that. Just like we've been talking about, like in Numbers, all the Israelites, they were just willing to go right back to Egypt and become slaves again because that's where they were comfortable at.
Right.
So you have to break through that mold. You have to break through that and just stick with it and get out of your comfort zone.
Well, I'm not going to apologize for buzzing you because I buzzed you for a specific reason, but I feel like I need to tell you why I buzzed you. Because in churches, I've heard for years and years and years, when they're trying to get you to go walk up and down the street and hand out pamphlets or doing things, they'll try to make you feel guilty. They'll say, you need to get out of your comfort zone. But what you just explained is a great definition of comfort zone.
Absolutely.
Comfort zone is the stuff you're used to mulling around in because you're comfortable there. I love that. I have a new appreciation for the term comfort zone.
So can you take the buzz back? Can you unbuzz it?
I don't think so. I think once you've been buzzed
Didn't we sing that song on an old hymnal?
What's that?
Highway to the Comfort Zone.
Comfort Zone, yeah. That was a misread by
it was. Brother
Mike Koontz. Brother Koontz. I talked to him the other day. We need to have him back out here. In fact, we talked about that. We'll have him back out here at some point.
Yeah, but I think what God wants us to find out in life is he wants us to find out our dependency on him. And the more we try to figure it out, control it, even fix it, you'll never get out of addiction trying to fix it yourself. I mean, you can go through the 12 steps all you want to. Until you have God helping you, you're not going to get to the place where what you really need to do is you need to hate that sin the way God hates that sin. And what we learn through our difficulties, I think, is we learn to rely on him. And I don't do it all the time because I'm still a work in progress, getting out of my comfort zones. But, you know, the things that I know immediately are over my head, again, go back to laughter. I almost smile and laugh and just kind of, you know, my prayer life is like, okay, God, I got no clue. I have no clue how to deal with this. And you're reminding me that you're in charge. So go ahead and be in charge. And I'm just going to ride the bus, you know, because he's actually driving. And that, I can't tell you how many times there have been things that's happened to me. And I just smile about it and just start laughing, going, I have no clue how to fix this. You start, you know, especially as men, we run through our Rolodex. If you need money, you start thinking of friends that got money or bankers. If you get sick, you start thinking, okay, who do I know is a nurse? Who, you know, if you got something that happens at your house, okay, who do I know that's good with handyman stuff? And we try to fix it ourselves. And what's interesting is when you start just learning to lean on God, you'll really, and that almost sounds like a cop-out. Well, I'm just going to pray about it and trust God. Well, if you really will do that with sincerity, you'll be amazed at what he'll do. I was going into a situation one time. I was going into a meeting, and it was a situation I've never encountered before or since then. And I was really like, I have no idea. I mean, I couldn't see a good answer for it. And I go into this meeting, and the last guy that walked in the meeting, who I was kind of dreading for him to walk in the meeting, he walks in and he goes, kind of angry. Before anybody says anything, let me tell y'all something. And he spouts out something, and I just smiled because what he said was, there's no sense us even having this meeting because this has happened and this has happened. And I was like, okay, thank you, God. Got up and walked out of the meeting. You know, I didn't have to figure out anything, didn't have to do anything. But those are the situations where you're just reminded that, you know, we're not in charge and we're not asked to be in charge.
You know, while you're saying all that, I got to thinking that, you know, it is one thing to, well, that thing about turning everything over to him is kind of complicated, especially if you're not fooling with this kind of stuff very much.
Let me get you a buzzer worthy.
Okay.
Let go and let go.
Yeah.
I hate to say that.
Well, but look, what I was thinking about is that's confusing. It's hard to understand. How do you turn everything over? Because you're living in this physical world. But I was thinking that what happens when you do turn it over the right way to him, preferably, I guess, you're so used to doing in your head trying to figure it all out that turning it over to him kind of means stop all you're trying to figure it out and thinking about it, and then all of a sudden you can see a little more clear. And the things that you do after that point might make a little more sense, which you can't do, like Wienk was saying. You get back in your comfort zone because you're so overwhelmed by everything, you don't know what to start. But when you do, I guess, learn how to get that off of your mind and put that onto his, however that works, I don't know how it works, but it frees your mind up so you can think about something to do that makes sense.
And you got to put in some work in it too. You know, you can't just say, "Oh, I put all my trust in God." Oh, well, that's great, but the light bill's still due at the end of the month.
That's true,
you know
Wienk.
I mean?
I'm glad you said that. Yeah, you still got to do your stuff.
Yeah, you have to put in the work too. I was talking to a guy once. I was like, we were talking about our prayer life, and I was like, how can you pray, you know, to God to help get you sober if every day you wake up and you still go hang out with the same people doing the same stuff as you were while you were doing drugs, and trying to do it sober and think that that's going to work? You have to actually do some, you know what I mean? You have to actually put some work behind it and actually try, and God will open up those doors for you.
Interesting. Faith without works, they say. That's a church. Wait, that's a church.
That's actually
phrase.
scripture.
Oh, well, I didn't mean to buzz that.
Yeah, you didn't mean to.
That was a little bit of an accident.
That's in the book of James
One
too.
of the funny ones. One of the funny ones I hate hearing is it's not a setback. It's a setup for a comeback.
Yeah. God didn't want you to sin. I promise you that. You know. And again, all this goes back to are we trusting God? Because all the problems that we have, whether it's an addiction or whether it's a financial stress or even a marital stress, are you trying to figure it out on your own? I get myself in a financial bind, and all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I can work 2 jobs and I can sell this off and I can do this and I can do this. And I might need to do some of that, but I might need to ask him first.
Yeah.
And
Might
then
need a little counseling there.
Or I want to fix my wife. And what I might need to fix is me, and so it sounds almost too simple to be true, but I think God's pretty simple in what he wants from us. God's not simple, but what he wants from us is pretty simple. Just obedience. Follow me, son, and let me fight your battles. Follow me and let me show you where to go. Follow me, and now you will be fulfilled. You will enjoy life. But we want to get out in front of him. Mm-hmm. We want to get in front of him. Just a real quick illustration. Years ago, both my boys were living at home, and they're trying to please Dad. And they knew we were doing yard work, so one of them was out mowing the grass. Another one grabbed the blower, and he blew it off. And, all right, yeah, we're done. Now we can go swimming or whatever they wanted to do. And I said, no, now we get to weed eat. And the one that had blown the grass off was mad at me. I've already blown the grass off. No. I said, yeah, you didn't follow me. If you'd have followed me, I would have shown you we need to weed eat next, and then we need to blow the grass off, and then we're done. But now because you've done it your way, now you're going to have to blow it off twice. And he was none too happy about that. But that's a good illustration of how I do my life. I make it more complicated than it has to be.
Yeah, that is true. Wink.
Yes, sir.
What would you say to the casual listener who ain't all soaked up in church like some of us are, who might be at the place where they're wondering what to do next to keep from going off the edge of the cliff?
I would say get out of your comfort zone. Reach out to somebody. Start talking to somebody. Reach out to family, friends. Reach out to a church. Call a 1-800 number if you have to. Reach out to somebody and let them pray over you. Let them pray with you. Let them start showing you the way a little bit. You need to see a little bit of light in your life. So let that light come in and go with it. Take it and run. Don't look back.
That sounds pretty good.
That's the gospel, isn't it? Right there.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Just saying. Yeah, we say here pretty often, give it a shot, because I can recall a place in my life where I'd tried everything else and gave this one a shot, and it worked out fairly good. Still in progress. But okay, Wink, I'm glad to have you here. You're a good conversationalist.
Glad to be here.
You're way more serious than we are. But it seems like it worked pretty good.
It's his first time.
It's my first time.
We'll see what happens next week.
I'm loosening up.
See what happens next week. But
come back next week when Wink gets loose
and gets a buzz and catches a buzz on Mike the Baptist.
You might not have any listeners by next week.
Oh yeah, well.
Oh, you got one.
Yeah, I got one.
Okay, let's take a break. Come back, play Inny or Outty.
All right.
Okay.
Hey everybody, it's time to play America's almost favoriteest new game show, Inny or Outty, where we challenge our guests to figure out if a phrase we give them is actually in the Bible or out of the Bible. Sharpen your wits, guest. You're about to be in the hot seat of Bible stuff, because you're the next contestant on Inny or Outty. Here's Mike.
It's kind of exciting, isn't it, Nate, to have somebody new in here?
It is, because, this game show is fun-ucational.
It's fun-ucational. See, also, Wink, HD came up with this word, fun-ucational, for Inny or Outty. Great word.
Love it.
Because it's fun
and educational.
But see how that works? And
I like making up words, too. So.
Well, that's what we're all about. Early on Mike the Baptist, I said shrinkle one day.
Yep.
It's not a word, but ever since then, we've been trying to figure out a way to get that in the Webster's dictionary.
Where it shrinks and wrinkles at the same time.
See? Shrinkle. I mean, it came out of my head like it was normal. I don't remember what we were talking about, but anyway. And everybody knows how Inny or Outty works, so we don't explain it. Everybody knows. We've been doing this for 2 years. Everybody knows we ask if something's in the Bible.
He is new, so make sure.
Well, he knows.
Okay.
He knows. He knows that we're going to ask if something's in the Bible, and then the other two are going to try to figure it out, and they're going to say it's either Inny or Outty. So there's no need to explain what's about to happen. I'll start. You two will be the discussers to try to come to an intelligent and intelligible.
Easy for you to say.
Yes. Answer. Is the word gravy in the Bible? I've been waiting a long time to do this.
Is the word gravy?
Yes. Now, Wienk, it comes up all the time, and we make fun of the version of the Bible called the Message, because Wienk is in that one. And so we usually don't go to the Message just so.
Wienk should be in everything.
Good comeback. Okay, is the word gravy in the Bible? Talk about it amongst yourselves, gentlemen.
I don't think so. I don't.
See, that sounds like it's a Michael Jackson word because he likes gravy.
Boy, I do like
he
gravy.
makes chocolate gravy at Christmas.
I made some chocolate gravy just a couple mornings ago. A friend of mine just out of nowhere said, "You should make some chocolate gravy." And I hadn't thought about that in a long time. So I said, "Okay, I will."
Here we go. So
send him a picture of it.
So it's a word that he likes.
Boy.
And he's hoping it's in there.
I just don't think, like, if you think about what it takes to make gravy, I don't think they had
flour and milk. Oh yeah, they had flour and milk.
Well, the working at, like, the tools, I don't know. Like, you have to sit there and whisk it and pour it. I'm just going off making sausage gravy.
Yep.
I don't know.
I mean, they made mortar and put rocks together, like, brick.
How do you make your roux?
My roux,
when you're making gravy. Roux's a fancy French word or something for gravy, I think, or the beginning of gravy.
I just use
I
bacon
that
grease.
Guy in Winnie the Pooh. Kanga and roux.
No.
Bacon grease, milk, and flour.
Yeah, but do you do like a thick roux and then slowly add the milk, or do you do it thin?
I do it thick and then slowly add in the milk.
Do you brown it a little, or do you just go right after it?
I'm browning it a little bit.
Man, we got to get together and make us some gravy. I'm hungry. Hey, I've got biscuits almost mastered. I've been working on them for 25 years. I'm sorry. Is the word gravy in the Bible?
I don't think so.
He's pretty proud of himself, so he knows
Is it showing?
He knows it doesn't sound like it's in the Bible, but that makes me concerned that it's going to be in the Bible.
Yes. That's the scary aspect of Inny.
And also, obviously it had to be called something different, so they could be saying something is something in the Bible, and in our time it's gravy.
I just heard a game show. Did y'all hear that?
Yeah. I can't think of any particular place that it is in there, so
I'm going with no.
We're going with Outty?
With Outty.
All right, Mr. Jackson, we're going with Outty.
It's an Outty? Let me get my Bible.
Yep. See? Yeah, I'm telling you.
Let me read to you Psalm 63, verse 5 through 8, maybe. 63, 5 through 8. Hang on here. My soul will be satisfied as with the richest of foods. I'm only going to read that verse because it does not say gravy anywhere in the Bible.
Oh, okay, good.
But ironically, in the Message, that first line becomes prime rib and gravy.
Oh, wow.
Who are the nut jobs that put together the Message? Who are those people?
Well, they're just trying to, make it speak to.
Well, I know, but it's just so nutty. I mean,
It's kind of nutty. So, okay, good. So gravy is not in the Bible.
Yes.
There we go.
Y'all won. That's good.
All right, good deal.
1 for 1.
A good conversation.
Yeah.
You're way ahead of the curve, let me say.
Yeah. If you get like both weeks, he wins all of them. I don't know. We may not invite him back. Even Jason falters every now and then.
He does. Yeah, and Jason's like an encyclopedia.
He knows a lot of odd information.
But now I will say he's like an encyclopedia, but sometimes it's like he's reading it upside down because he will get a little tripped on some things, and you can see it in his head, like especially on Inny or Outty, he'll start going through these scenarios in his head. Okay, what do you got, H?
So
Wienk and I are ready. I feel like I'm with a winner here.
So I have to kind of set this up with a little bit of a story.
Okay.
So little boy went to church one day.
This sounds like a joke instead of a story.
Yeah, it is. It kind of sets it up. Little boy went to church one day, and you know how little boys, they get bored in church and everything, and he comes out, he looks up on this wall with all these brass plates on it, and he asks his grandmother, says, "What is that?" She said, "Well, honey, that's people that died in the service." And he goes, "Oh, was that the first service or the second service?"
Yes, I saw that coming after a bit.
So my question is, is there any place in the Bible where somebody died because of preaching? Because it was just like put them to sleep, just bored.
I think it's an Inny, Wienk.
I think it's an Inny.
These are two quick answers right
Y'all
here.
jumped right on that.
I think it's an Inny.
Are we going to discuss with each other why?
Yeah, you
we need
probably
to kind of drag this out for just a second.
I just feel like it's kind of a crazy enough thing to really. There's crazier stuff in the Bible.
You're catching on to this game real quick here.
You know anything about kings? There's some weird stuff in
There's
the Bible.
some weird stuff in there. So I had both a gut feeling.
And this is the way he does it, so that he can be about 50-50.
Yeah. But I did have a gut feeling that is, but it didn't kick into my head why. But then something kicked into my head that I have this thought that somewhere in there, somebody was struck dead hearing the word of God, which would be preaching, right? I can't tell you who, I can't tell you where, but there's just this thing in the back of my mind, kind of an echo of somebody saying, "Hey, didn't this happen?" So anyway, Wienk, we both think there is an instance of that happening.
I think so.
I mean, we're not even going to argue any negatives.
I was thinking the same thing as you. I thought there's somewhere in there. Didn't somebody get struck dead?
That happened. I'm just not sure it happened in front of a preacher.
That's true.
Well, I'm not talking about Ananias and Sapphira who brought their gift in and they lied about what they brought. I'm talking about literally somebody sitting there just listening to preaching.
I think that's what I was thinking of, what you just mentioned there.
That's what I was thinking. But now I think he's fighting really hard. So I think it really is an Inny.
He's trying to redirect us somehow. I think I'm like you. I think, because he's got that grinning like a possum look too that he accused me of having. Only I think he's trying to reverse trick us
reverse trick you.
That reverse psychology. I get it.
So ask us the question one more time so we can be sure what we're answering here.
Has somebody died because the preaching went too long?
Because the preaching went too long.
Yep.
Wow, there's a new level of trickery going on here all of a sudden.
You just stepped it up a notch.
That could mean that some dude in the Bible went up on a hill and started preaching and preached for 12 years.
Yeah.
And the old people died while he was preaching. That could mean that.
Yep.
I'm like you. I think it's an Inny.
I think it's an Inny.
I have no idea why. I'm anxious to hear the explanation, but okay, H.
So
we're an Inny.
Acts 20, verse 7. On the first day of the week, when they were gathered together to break bread, Paul talked with them, intending to depart on the next day, and he prolonged his speech until midnight. I mean, he just kept going. There were many lamps in the upper room where they were gathered, and a young man named Eutychus, Eutychus, Brother E, was sitting at the window. He sank into a deep sleep. As Paul talked still longer, and being overcome by sleep, he fell down from the third story and was taken up dead.
Oh, wow.
He died from Paul's boring preaching.
Fell off the wall and died.
Fell out the window. But Paul went down, bent over him, and taking him in his arms said, "Do not be alarmed, for his life is in him." And when Paul had gotten up and broken bread and eaten, he conversed with them a long while until daybreak, and so he departed.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Interesting.
2 for 2.
2 for 2. Wink. Wow. Historic day here on
Not
MTV.
have this happen. It makes the rest of us look bad.
Yeah, well, it's because we usually are kind of bad at this, but we have fun doing it.
We do.
Way to go, Wink.
Thank you.
Good ones. I like both of them. Both of them are pretty shocking today. Gravy and somebody dying at long preaching. Both can happen. Gravy can happen.
Yep.
Keep in mind that other can happen
I know,
too.
right?
Anyway, okay, let's take a break, come back, and tell everybody bye.
All right.
Oh, wow. What a great contestant and a fine sport today on Inny or Outty, America's almost favorite new game show. Study up, future guest people. You're next in the hot seat for Inny or Outty.
Hey, thanks again to our friend Steven Wienk, who everybody affectionately just calls Wink.
Wink.
Have they been doing that to you all your life?
As long as I can remember.
Well, that would be all your life.
Yeah.
I just want to say,
Well,
just as an observation.
For a while, because my older brother was pretty big in Mount Juliet. So for a while, I was Little Wink because I was the little brother. But it slowly morphed into
You got your own Wink.
Yeah.
We really wink.
Funny. Well, whatever it is, glad you were here. Looking forward to next week having you back. And
Absolutely.
hear some more about your work with the recovery programs.
Absolutely. I'm excited.
Yep, I am too. That's fascinating work, and it's good work. And we'll see you back there. HD, you'll be back as well.
I'll try to. Yep. Good.
And whatever y'all do this week while you're apart, I hope you have fun. I'm going to. Every day I get up, and that's kind of the goal. Some days it's a struggle, some days it's not. And thanks to all of you who might have stayed here and listened, and we hope you have a good week until we see you again. Remember, folks, we're all just Christians.
Trying not to cuss.
See there? We're all the same.
Yep.
Some a little more, some a little less, some not at all. Trying is the key word there. Okay, see you next time.
Mike the Baptist.